13, which has started off in quite a positive fashion, I think, from the economic reports that are coming out early this year. 2013 seems to be a better year for business growth, and today I'm going to be quizzing the panel. I've got the easy job. So I'll be talking to these guys about things such as business growth, how they market their businesses, what the economic outlook looks likely to be for 2013, how they're integrating technology into their business, and a few other things as well. And hopefully we'll have some time at the end for some questions. So what I'd like to do initially is just talk a little bit about the growth that these businesses have experienced and the differing ways they've gone about the growth that they've undertaken in their businesses since commencement. And Ricky, with Salas, I'll start with you. You're the new business on the block, so to speak, and I know you have quite significant experience in other areas of business. But with Salas, it's about 12 months old now, and I'd like to ask you what the most significant challenge was in getting your business off the ground and getting Salas off the ground, and how you dealt with that.
Okay. Awareness was probably our greatest challenge. As a lot of you probably know, Salas is just down the road, and it was the old Germania Club. We actually leased that site from the Germania Club, so they kept their asset. And a lot of it was just people being aware that it was actually changed and it was something different. There's still a lot of people out there that don't know that it's changed, so it's an ongoing thing, really, I suppose. So just trying to get people to understand that.
So in terms of awareness, what did you find worked for you to make people more aware of where you are, who you are and what you do?
Yep. Newcastle's very word of mouth, so that's hard, but we found our best advertising, obviously, and our best results have come from the Herald Weekender, so thank you if there's any Herald people out there, and some flyers that we get around. So mainly those two are the biggest winner for us.
With the advertising you do, have you targeted a specific audience demographic? Do you know your target market?
Yep. That's incredibly important to know who it is you want in your business or who you're targeting. So ours was, we knew we wanted to aim at the over sort of 35, 40-year-olds and have a venue that not just for functions, but for theme nights and entertainment nights. So it was important that we targeted them. So that's how we decided on the Weekender. And some of the other ways that we did our advertising was to pinpoint down what they would be doing. Similarly with radio, I sort of had a bit of a hassle with the radio stations trying to get them to understand that I didn't want a scattergun approach throughout the day, which is typically what they want to sell you. So it's important to say, stick to your guns and know what it is that who you're wanting to target. So we knew most of our people would be organising their events would be women, and usually working women. So it wasn't much point advertising to them throughout the day because they're probably sitting in an office that won't have a radio on, so it was mainly have the advertisings in the right time slots, and that is hard to get through to the reps usually.
Yeah, that's good. Les, your business has grown fairly significantly since you took it over in about 2005. I think you've doubled the number of berths at the marina, and you mentioned that it was probably one of the largest privately owned marinas in New South Wales these days. And in obtaining that growth, I'm aware that you've had to deal with a lot of local government authorities, and obviously you've dealt with them quite successfully. And I'm just wondering if you can give us a little bit of an insight into what you think is required to be able to successfully deal with local government authorities, including council, to obtain positive outcomes for your business.
Invite them out, number one. Ever since we bought the marina and started down the track of development, which was probably not long after we bought it, maybe a couple of years, we tried to get them on board, and the council at the time, slowly come on board, to their credit, and today I think we've got a great relationship with council and the government that we deal with, mainly through lands. We've always had them down there, showed them what we've done. What we said we were going to do, we did, and we did it well. Well, I think we did. And they've seen that. So when we go back to them now with new projects and other projects, they can fall back on what we've done and say, you know, he's the real deal. Negotiate hard with your lease. Like get in, like things like leases with the state government. They'll give you a lease, and it's usually a lengthy document. Read it, go through it, and put in what you like or what you don't like out of it, and what you want in it, and go back and negotiate with them. If you've got some substance behind that, they will listen to you, and they take it on board. They don't want to see you fail because it's too hard for them, too much red tape, and they'll work with you. So we've found that that's been a really good thing to do that with the state lands department particularly.
Les, do you use consultants or do you do it yourself? How have you found the best way to approach this?
Back in the early day when we bought the marina, the fuel tanks failed. About the second month we bought it, so it's exactly what you want. So we went to the council to say, well, we want to put in some new fuel tanks, and the first bit of advice we got off the council is go away and get a consultant. We can't even deal with it. It's on the water's edge. It's, you know, there's environmental issues. There's all these things that's got to be done. Decontamination. So we went off and found a consultant for that project, and it was a great experience. It was great advice, and we got the project through on the new fuel tanks. And then that led into the new marina, like the development of the new marina. We used the same consultant. We already had some runs on the board with him. The council were familiar with him, and then we could go through the process of the development. So, yeah, get a consultant, work with the consultant, and they'll guide you through it. It's just too involved in our game to try and do it yourself and run your business at the same time.
Yeah, good advice. Scott, you've grown your business generically, but you've also been through a merger in 2008. Mergers and tuck-ins are fairly common. Well, not common, but there's a number of businesses out there looking to grow by way of merger and tuck-in. How did you find, or how did you come about undertaking the merger, the process that you went through? Was that something that you planned, that you put on your to-do list to go and find a business to merge with, or did it come about by other means?
Thanks, Darren. I'd like to say that we went through some sort of, rigorous and impressive sounding business process and developed a strategy and identified a target and systematically worked and negotiated with them. But what actually happened was that a good mate of mine who ran a business almost the same as my own from Tuggerah, as we were both growing, we were ending up competing against each other quite a lot, and we'd always be ringing each other up going, you want this one too? And so we thought rather than competing with each other, it would make a lot of sense if we got together and joined forces. And the other thing, I think, being a company that's largely run by left-brain people like surveyors and engineers, we're not particularly good at marketing. In fact, we're quite hopeless at it. And I don't think there's been any overt marketing move that we've made that's been terribly successful. And in our business, we're not a mass market business like the people that we work for are the corporates or people involved with large land holdings or people doing large developments. And so it's not like Ricky's talking about advertising on the radio and in the paper. Well, that's not our go. And the group of clients we have is quite small, and Newcastle being Newcastle, a large country town, awareness is not hard. If you've been around for a while, everybody knows you're there. In our business, the hard part's keeping the service standards up. If you do a great job, everything else falls into place, and even though people might whinge and moan about fees and price, at the end of the day, if we keep doing a good job, they keep coming back. And in the case of our two companies, we were both going pretty well, and when we got together, it ended up that we got a lot of terrific synergies from it. We broadened our skill base. In a business like ours, one of the biggies is cash flow management, And when you're typically dealing with a small number of large clients, if one of them, for whatever reason, is slow paying, doesn't pay, or in the property development world goes belly up, it can have a major hit on your cash flows. Whereas when you're bigger, if one substantial client doesn't pay you, it has less of a proportional impact. So from our point of view, it's been a fantastic move and best thing we've ever done.
Scott, we went through a similar process with a merger. We found as much as we thought our cultures were similar, when we got together they were fairly significantly different. Did you experience that, and how did you deal with potentially different cultures in the two organisations?
Well, I'd say we're still dealing with it, but when we were looking at getting together, I, being an analytical sort of person and want to research everything to death, went around to everybody I could find I knew who'd been involved in a merger, and what you find is there's not too many long-term successful ones. I'd say, just from my own experience from talking around businesses in this area, I'd say 70 or 80% of mergers fail in one way or another almost straight away, like within the first year or two. And and what it essentially boils down to, I think, is differences, falling outs between the people who ran the original ones. When we're all used to, anybody who's involved in a small business is used to being king in the castle and not used to being told they're wrong, and so if you put two of them together and they've been working a certain way for a long time, they're pretty set in their ways. I think all humans are, instinctively tribal, and they tend to form groups and, defend, and everybody out on the outside's the enemy. And when you've got a two-campus business like ours, we've got one office just over the road there and one at Tuggerah, and they're both similar sizes, trying to sort of get a sense of team, of unity, of common purpose is quite a challenge, and I frankly probably spend, probably 20% of my time trying to do just that. One of the businesses I spoke to locally, when they acquired a Sydney office, were finding not only was their Sydney office competing against their Newcastle office for exactly the same project, but they're getting very indignant when the other one won it. They're aggressively undercutting their own company. But having said that, I think if the principals agree, as in the original directors, if they're getting on, everything else tends to flow. But I'd say quite openly that in the first year or so, there was probably half a dozen times I was sitting there at a meeting with my fellow directors, looking, trembling, thinking, I think it's going to end here today. With the goodwill of all involved, though, luckily that hasn't happened, and we're soldiering on stronger than ever.
One word answer, Scott.
Sorry.
Would you do it again?
Yes.
Short memory, huh? Colin, I think since the GFC, I should say, there's been a little bit of a perception amongst business owners that finance, well, the ability to obtain finance has become more difficult, and that banks might have tightened up their lending policies. What would you recommend a business do to improve their chances of borrowing, to grow their business, and what's the CBA looking for? What key things are the CBA looking for in a business before they lend money?
Okay, so I think the first thing is that heading into the GFC, the Australian banking system was in pretty good shape, and as a result of that was able to keep lending throughout, and Australia somewhat avoided most of the downfalls of the GFC, particularly that occurred in the US and Europe. So the thing for us is that it's actually been reasonably business as usual, and I think the great thing about that is probably because of the regulation in the Australian banking system, the lessons learnt from previous meltdowns. It's a reasonably conservative and well-governed business. That's a general view of the industry. So internally, from a CBA point of view, it's largely been business as usual. From Scott's point of view, yes, property is probably the one area that's had a lot more scrutiny from a finance point of view, but when asset values are dropping, that's reasonable scrutiny to apply at the same time. So the short answer is nothing's really changed in terms of what we're looking for from a business. I'd throw three critical things out, and interestingly it's been touched on already. The first is management, the quality of management, the systems they deploy, their ability to execute a business plan. So we look at the people behind the business as being the number one thing. The balance sheet of the business, so does it have is it robust enough to sustain any downturns in performance or in external pressures? So if returned earnings are in the balance sheet, or if there's shareholder funds sitting there, that gives a lender a bit of comfort that there's some skin in the game from the business owner. But more importantly, if economic circumstances change or the market that they're in changes, there's the ability to cope with that while they take other measures. And the last one is the ability to service the facilities. Again, Scott's touched on it from a cash flow point of view. Call it cash flow, call it debt servicing, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, it's the consistency in that. Often we see businesses coming to us when they've had their best year ever. The problem with that is there's maybe extenuating factors as to why that happened, and the ability to sustain that is going to... So really just the consistency in outcomes. So I'd call those three things out as the three critical things.
All right, so if a business is looking to borrow money later on this year to reinvest back into the business, you'd suggest that they start working on those things if they haven't already, because from what you're saying, that you're really taking a longer term snapshot of the business and not just where they stand at any one particular point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, planning is critical for that. Probably the other thing is the return on investment. Particularly when you've got a more subdued market like we've got at the moment, the likelihood that you're going to get a substantial or above market return on investment is not high. So being conservative in those forecasts. And there's really two decisions, I think, that get made when it's a decision's made to invest. There's either a decision to invest in core, be it a merger or something, but it's not a fundamental shift away from the business that's being conducted. So generally it's about, maybe it's a technology investment, maybe it's a commercial property change of investment, maybe it's some of the plant and equipment that's being used in the business. So the business itself is generally able to forecast with a high degree of, certainty what the impact of those changes are going to be. Where it's a little bit more of a challenge is when the decision's to invest away from core. So that could be a function of a business just doesn't have a choice. Their product is becoming obsolete, or the markets they're in is diminishing, and they just have to go and find an alternative market. Or they're excited by a prospect, or they've an opportunity to go into another market, and so they want to invest in that. That's probably the bit where a lot more robustness has to be done from a planning point of view, for a couple of reasons. One is, do you understand that market well enough to enter into it? Do you have a unique service proposition or selling proposition to be in there, and what are the competitive pressures? And the other one, which the business owners who are investing away from core don't often think about, is the impact on their existing business. So even if it's just purely the distraction of time being spent on start-up operation, what does it do? Do you have the competencies within the people in your business to manage that business while you're pursuing other interests? So, my advice would be, if you're looking at making investment away from your core business, then you've got to be very clear on, or probably a bit more robust in the approach you take to that.
Yeah, that's good advice. I'd just like to have a little bit of a look at marketing and promotion of some of these businesses now. And Ricky, you've taken a bold step of setting up a couple of doors down from probably one of your major competitors. How have you gone, and being this place obviously, how have you gone about differentiating your business to try and, set yourself apart from a place like this and some of the clubs in the area?
It's always important to be a bit different. Otherwise, there's sort of not a lot of point, really, I suppose. So our when I looked at the old Germania Club, I realised that it had a lot to offer. So it has a big stage, has a green room, it has, you know, ability for sound and lighting. So we could see that it was actually more than just a function centre. So it could be a function and an entertainment centre. So that was, for me, that was the differentiator. And I guess that's probably it in a way. It's the clubs have the I see it as a downside, and a lot of people do, of the poker machines and the members going through all the time, whereas the function centres like the Glades and like ours are private. Our car parking's massive, the site's massive. We're doing a car show, a memorial car show this month, down the back. So we have the ability to be whatever. We've done a wake for 400 people. There's just, I suppose it can be anything that it needs to be, and having the size of the land, the size of the building itself, the room sizes, they're quite large, and that whole stage, that makes it not a lot different, but a fair bit different. I think enough.
So your business has the ability to offer almost a package for everyone, if you like, depending on what they want. You can tailor it to suit.
Yep, exactly. So it doesn't just have to be a set thing. It can be whatever's in anyone's imagination, really, I suppose.
Yeah, that's good. Les, you've probably got a slightly different set of issues in that you don't have a lot of competitors in what you do at the marina, but obviously you must still come across many challenges in trying to promote your business and market it and get people to come along. Obviously GFC doesn't help when a boat can cost a fair bit of money and maintaining boats. So how do you overcome those challenges, and what are you looking to do in 2013 to promote your business and market it?
It's a big question.
Sorry.
We'll start at the beginning. There probably, to the quality of our marina and the size, there probably isn't a lot of competition in Lake Macquarie at this point, but partner Sam and I certainly see in the future that with the marina projects that are on the board going forward, we will have some pressure. We'll have a lot of competition if the number of berths in Lake Macquarie get up. Hopefully that coincides with Channel, someone taking ownership of the Channel and maintaining it long term, because I don't care how many berths are in Lake Macquarie at that point, because it's an open market. At the moment it's a little bit of a closed shop because of perception out there on the Channel. So it's, yes, we do have a lion's share at the moment. We offer a good facility, but we can't get complacent on that. We try and offer good customer service. We're putting strategies in place at the moment through new staff to try and improve and maintain that customer service, because the bigger you get, you can lose that goal of trying to look after everybody, and it's a difficult job because of the size of the place. What was the end bit of your question there?
Just wondering if you're making any changes this year for 2013 in the way you promote it, but just what you're talking about there with customer service. I think that's important in just about every business these days. You need good customer service. How do you, and you've got a reasonable staff out there, so how do you ensure customer service is consistent across the board in your business?
We've had a few staff changes to try and get to this a high level of customer satisfaction, customer service, and that's not only our existing customers that are on our marina day in, day out, it's also our transient type customers that might use the hard stand once a year, but there's thousands of them, so you want them to come back the year later. You don't want them to take it out of the lake or anything like that. So it's giving them a positive experience through our staff, because they're the point of contact, really. It's finding new staff that can achieve that goal with us. We've had some great success end of last year with some quality staff. We've still got a couple of positions there that we need to keep working on to maintain that customer service.
So it sounds like, from your perspective, good staff make a big difference in terms of delivering.
Definitely. When it was 120 berth marina, Sam and I could be out there every day and people knew us and everything like that. When it's 245 berths and you got a hard stand full of boats and dry storage happening now, you physically can't be there. I don't know some of our clients, as from from a management point of view, but they know our staff, and yeah, that makes me pretty proud when they give them a rap too.
Yeah, that's good. Economic outlook, guys. As I said, I think the start of this year is looking promising in terms of some of the indicators, and the RBA yesterday pointing to potential growth internationally at this point. Scott, your business, being in the property consultancy game, is pretty much at the coalface in terms of being a leading indicator with what's going on with property development and construction. How are you seeing things at the moment? What's the level of activity looking like for 2013?
I suppose I'd say nervously optimistic. On Friday I'm going to the Hunter Valley Research Briefing to see what the pros say about it all, but to me the situation's been the same for the last couple of years, in that especially here in the Hunter we've got so many advantages. The fundamentals have always been good, you know, unemployment's low, interest rates are low. If you look at the things that underpin the Hunter economy, you know, the RAF base, Hunter Area Health Service, the university, the top three employers, they're government expenditure, they're not going anywhere, and even with pullbacks in capital in the mines, those mines are still there, they're still producing, so I think the fundamentals are great. The only thing that's holding us back, especially in property, is you know, just confidence, and in our particular field, the regulatory regime tends to get a bit out of sync with the market, and years ago when the more flamboyant property developers were, their preferred fashion accessory was a helicopter to run around in, and of course the people who write taxes notice this and think, oh, we've got to get a few more dollars out of those guys, and then so eventually now they are getting a few more dollars out of those guys, but all the fellas with the helicopters are now, you know, filling up the bankruptcy pages, and the industry that we're in has essentially been costed to death, and now we're at the stage where the costs of producing land on the ground are so high that very few people are doing it. We combine it with the inability for most private developers to get finance for such things, that's holding us back. But so fundamentally, no, I think things are pretty good, Darren.
Yeah. I didn't quite get that out of your answer, Scott, but you're optimistic.
Reasonably so, yes.
That's good. Well, look, just picking up on a few things that you mentioned there, and I tend to agree that we've got low interest rates, we've got relatively low unemployment, we've got steady growth, we've got the RBA telling us that the international scene's starting to improve. Cole, why are some businesses still doing it tough, and what's the CBA outlook for business in 2013?
Okay, I'm with Scott. Look, regionally we're in pretty good shape. You know, there's a couple of things to call out there, and you know, our business compared to my peers in Metro Sydney, you know, we're leading the pack, and that's partly because I've got good people, but it's a lot to do with the economic circumstances in which we find ourselves. So, you know, I believe there's room for optimism. Picking up on the comments around mining, most of the people we talk to, no one's expecting it to be long term. The lull that we're seeing at the moment, that it's largely short term. I was listening to the radio yesterday. The Muswellbrook Mayor was quoted as saying they still are allowing for 10-year growth in mining. You know, the strong dollar's an issue. There's no doubt about that. And I think that's a bit of a rethink at the moment. Everyone thought it was just an aberration and it would go away, but I'm not sure that it will. Not in the short term. Whilst the interest rate differentials are where they are between us and global, you know, other global economies, I still think there'll be strong demand for the Aussie dollar, and whilst we're resource rich, so that requires a bit of a rethink, and I think that's possibly why we're seeing a bit of a lull in the mining industry at the moment, because, you know, they're not making the returns that they had when it was priced at 85 or 90 cents. So, you know, there's some of that to work through, but, you know, from our point of view, it's best to me to talk about what we're seeing from our own client book. You know, very few businesses are showing signs of stress, which is positive, and still seeing a fair bit of amount of investment being made in business. So, you know, retail's tough. There's no doubt retail is doing it hard. What we are seeing, though, is a lot of our clients talk to us about being more productive, about more efficient in the way they're doing business, and how can we help facilitate, receive payments quicker, do their accounting quicker. So most businesses are, I think, far more alert now to the need to do something, understanding that there's not going to be a strong upswing to come in the short term. Not concerned about where they're at, but wanting to still improve the efficiency of their operation to make sure their bottom lines can be sustained.
And I think that's a good point. And it probably leads into another question to do with technology. And I think what you're alluding to there is a lot of businesses are looking to the technological advancements that have come about in the last few years to try and find ways of reducing costs, selling product online, all that sort of thing. And look, we've had the advent of lots of social media that we're being encouraged to use for business purposes. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, as well as a lot of cloud-based computer applications, software applications. We're seeing that in our business with a lot of clients moving towards cloud-based accounting systems such as Xero and that sort of thing. So something I'd like to probably pose to all of you briefly is, one, are you jumping on board with this social media revolution? Do you think it's going to be beneficial for your business? And what are you spending money on in terms of technology if you're not spending it on that? So Les, I might start with you.
Yeah, end of last year we've implemented a complete new software system through, like marina management system through our marina, both on the marina wet area, the hard stand area, the point of sales, which is to free up our staff. Obviously it's tailored to the marine industry. It's a little bit like hotel booking system on the marina, which and Dice Guy that works for us, she's taken it on board to implement it. But we've gone the whole hog. We haven't just taken the marine side, we've taken the hard stand side, and this is one of the biggest marine packages in the world that they put out, and we've taken a lot on, so it's been a lot for us to absorb and to get up to speed. We're still learning it, but we can see the advantages of it already, with better customer feedback and contact with our clients, which we didn't have before. Websites, where I'm not a Facebook person. People send me Facebook, I don't really answer it because I don't think I have time for it, but this is something that we're moving into now with the marina and new websites, and that's being written now. So we had a website, but it just didn't seem to, I think, match the product that we sell and what we have to sell. So we're redoing the website with another company, and they're going to look after our Facebook and all that other social media as well. So yeah, we are jumping on board.
Scott?
Yeah, I'm right into all this social media stuff, and I just blocked Facebook at work about 6 months ago. Not because I've got any objection to people using it, it's just that the cost of the data pipe between our two offices was it was $28,000 a year, which I thought was extraordinary. That we were actually running up, continually going over our limit, and when we block Facebook, suddenly we're down comfortably under it again. But social media doesn't have a lot of relevance to what we do. What I've noticed is the new phenomena of LinkedIn, which I'd say every day you get half a dozen requests with. It's like Facebook for board consultants, I think. It's a bit of a sign that you haven't got a lot of work on, so everybody's sending out LinkedIn friend requests, and you can go and have a bit of a look, and you can see how much work someone's got on by what a nice photo they've got and how detailed their profile is. But technology-wise, our business has always been driven by it. You've got no choice but to be at the cutting edge, because otherwise your competitors have got the jump on you. And I think last year we bought 43 computers just in the normal upgrade cycle, and so no, we've got no choice but to be heavily involved in it, Darren.
Yeah. Ricky?
I think it depends on what your business is, and it's important to know who your clients are, what they're going to be looking at. For us, we've got 2 car parks in town, so that's going through a whole new upgrade on the IT there, so that we can de-staff, I suppose you might call it, and it'll be running 24/7. For our other business, the maintenance business, we built our own software package for that over the years, so that's probably one of the best packages out there at the moment that our competitors don't have, so we have that. And for sailors, it's a website pretty well. Facebook, well, guys, I don't do Facebook, but Facebook's great when you're looking to employ someone, because especially if they're in that younger age bracket, get somebody onto Facebook, look them up, and you can see all about them. It's terrific. We had one guy come to us, and he came in the suit, and he looked really great, and got on Facebook as soon as he walked out the door, looked him up, and here he is with the yard glass sculling away, and all these pictures of him hanging around the house. So it was really interesting. So we use it for that. We do use it a tiny, tiny bit. You have to be really careful, I think, that you don't get sold on the gimmick. And sometimes these things are gimmicks. They might be around for a few years, but they might not last. They might not be targeting the people that you need them to target. I think the website's always the good one, because pretty well everyone jumps on there and has a quick look. As to all the other bits and pieces, I think it's just important just to know what your people, what your customers are going to be using. That's pretty well the way I do it. So.
Sounds like very important to get your business systems right and invest the money there, but jury seems to be still out a little bit in terms of Facebook, and maybe it depends on who your target market is. Cole, what's CBA doing in that space? And obviously quite a bit.
Probably just firstly some comments on some trends. Just the census report, which is not the government census, but the census company that looks at focusing on SME businesses, do an extensive survey every year. The connectivity in businesses is like it runs at 96% in terms of the internet. From that, 27% of those SMEs who are connected to the internet have social media. So in terms of its use, it's that number was 15% 12 months before. So significant take up of social media. What's actually interesting is the number of companies that have an internet site is coming down. And replacing it with a Facebook presence or some other form. So, there are some changes there. The other thing, 6 million Australians now do mobile banking, so via an Android phone or a smartphone or a tablet. And again, we've got to that number as an industry much quicker than we did with internet banking, so in about half the time. The other thing that's particularly relevant for retailers in December, when 2011, when Census ran the surveys that they did, there was virtually little or no talk about the ability as a retailer to take mobile payments or contactless payments. It's now the two most critical products that those businesses are needing. So portability of money in our industry is probably the number one criteria that's changing, and businesses therefore need to be alert to that. So we now have, so we've got a couple of tablet-based FPOS terminals, so they're not the standard plug in at a counter and just run a card. You can have apps loaded to those that can do inventory reconciliations, you can do CRMs, you could take it out to the boat potentially, and you've got all your clients' data sitting there in your FPOS terminal whilst you're taking payment for their fuel or whatever. So that whole linkage and the connectivity between money and client and buying preferences is probably the next explosion, if you like. So there's that. CBA is YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. So even for a large organisation like us, we're at.
Are you finding that's working for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, testimonials are a fantastic way of promoting your business. And that's what you see when you go on Facebook and when you go to LinkedIn. You actually are looking for word of mouth. It's interesting, the hospitality industry. This is, people look at TripAdvisor now. They don't, they're not looking at a restaurant's website. They're looking at TripAdvisor to see where the rest of people are going. So the shift has really gone to the consumer centre. The consumer is now the marketer of business, not the business itself. And that's where social media is so powerful. I mean, I remember a fantastic story, if I got just a tick.
That's a good point.
There's Shoal Bay Resort and Spa. They're not a client. But I just remember this story so telling is that there was a couple who were coming up from Sydney who'd posted a tweet that they were going to stay, and it was their anniversary, and because Shoal Bay are continually monitoring what's being fed around social media around their resort, these people turned up, and when they got to their room, they hadn't made Shoal Bay Spa and Resort aware of the fact that they were having an anniversary, but there was a bottle of champagne and chocolates on arrival. Now that client experience has got to be awesome, and it only came out because they were monitoring what had been said about. So, you know, that's the value, that if you really tap into the richness of data that's out there and information about your business and your competitors' business, I think the businesses that will be successful moving forward are very good at that.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a very good point. Look, last question I've got for you guys, and very briefly, so we might be able to get a few questions from the floor. What excites you most about 2013 in a business sense? Keep it clean.
Yeah, look, I'm particularly keen to see businesses get leaner, and I think there's enough support. You know, it's interesting you talk about zero. There's lots of stuff in the market at the moment that is going to allow businesses to run their business smarter. You know, you heard about what's happening out at the marina. It's, you know, they're the sorts of things that the businesses that are going to be successful and sustainable into the next 5 years really have to look at a more holistic view of what they're doing and how do they become more efficient, more productive, a bit leaner and a little bit savvier in the way they're doing business, and, you know, we'd love to help.
Okay. Ricky?
I think it's not necessarily on a personal point, but just for our area, I get excited when we are doing well, while the whole area is doing well. I love to see the competition with Sydney, and I like to see, you know, as Scott said about you know, how we've got all these big people here, all these big organisations here, and everything is going well. We are pretty well swimming along. I think that's exciting, and to see that sustain itself would be good. Personally, through our businesses, you know, Sala's, it's the calendar filling all those little spots on there, and lots of other exciting things in other businesses. So, yeah, I think it's just the challenge, I guess, challenge of being the best.
It was my 53rd birthday on Saturday, and I think if someone had just guaranteed me I'd get to the end of 2013, I'd be pretty happy with that on its own. Don't take things for granted after a while. In what we do, what I said before about the service levels, and I think Les made the point too, when you're smaller, you know everything that's going on, and if we've got a problem on a job, you know about it because you can hear someone on the phone, and you can race over and personally help fix it. As we've got bigger, one of the things I've struggled with is that you realise there's a whole lot of quite significant jobs running through the place that I didn't even know they exist. And that really, like, I hate it like someone stabbed me in the eye with a fork if we get an unhappy customer. And last year we had a couple. Part of it's just a sign of the times, in that when business is tighter, when our clients are under more financial pressure, when there isn't the profits running through their business, they of course try to put more pressure on us and are more critical of what we do. But if we could get to the end of 2013 and I'd had every one of our customers, clients happy and telling me that would excite me.
You've got some work to do, Scott. He's also our consultant this week. Yeah, I think what I said before about the new program coming online and having a year of that under our belt, and the staffing issues sorted and bedded down, and, you know, the marina's quite full now. Maintaining that's going to excite me for the year, that we've had a stable year. We've had some great growth right up till now, and to see that go through to the end of 2013 would be fantastic by implementing this. We've got a restaurant that we're doing a DA on now. To see that finished by the end of December, hopefully open for December, would be fantastic, and trying to connect back to Lake Macquarie, a restaurant on the water, would be fantastic.
No, that's good. They're all very exciting plans. Graham, have we got any time for any questions
Maybe
from the floor?
About 4 minutes.
All right, a couple of minutes. So any questions from the floor for the panellists? Yes.
G'day, I'm Scott Brown from JDA. Thanks very much for your presentations. Talking about the diminishing asset value, there's a lot of issues around as the asset comes down. I'm interested in what sort of triggers or thresholds the bank takes if the asset value is diminishing and you've got a loan on that particular issue or that particular asset. How does the bank monitor that process so businesses are aware if their asset value is coming down and business is getting tighter? How do you encourage that communication with the bank around that so the bank's not potentially going to come in and revalue that asset and potentially call in the loan and capitalise it? And just quickly on the Facebook issue, I'm interested as how do you differentiate between the competencies of the prospective employee versus their Facebook page, and have you actually ever rejected anyone because of the content on their Facebook page?
Firstly, Cole, you might want to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean the critical there is that the asset's a secondary issue to the servicing. So as long as as long as the fundamentals of the business are largely sound, the asset should not come into consideration. The one thing I would say though is that active dialogue, if there's any signs of stress in the business coming, that's the best way to deal with it. There's often when things get tough and when things get prickly between us and our clients is when the situation is beyond repair. So getting involved with your financier sooner rather than later if there's some stress in the in your business, or you can see some clouds on the horizon and you may need some support. Again, it's that planning process, it's that quality reflection on management to know that I'm anticipating it, I can see what's coming and here's what I'm going to do about it, and if you work with me, this is what the outcome will be. So, but getting on the front foot, absolutely.
Yeah. Ricky, have you ever rejected anyone?
Yes, we have. It's just, I suppose it's just seeing what they're putting out there is not good. So it might not just be the hourglass, it might be the hourglass and the bong, or the glass or whatever else is sitting next to them. Or whatever they might be doing on the Facebook page. So it's not just one thing. But and especially in that sort of younger age group, they're so happy to tell the world everything that they're doing on Facebook. So it's it's certainly a dear diary, whereas diaries in the olden days used to have a little lock on them. Now they're out there for the whole world. So yeah, basically we have.
Valuable lesson to everyone there, I think. Be very careful of what you post on Facebook.
Exactly.
I keep telling the kids that, but don't know if they listen. Look, could everyone thank me in joining our panellists here today. They've sacrificed their morning and been very, very valuable in terms of providing us with some great information. So thanks very much, guys.
Well, wasn't that great? And certainly my thanks to Darren and the panel for sharing with us this morning some insights. And I think 2013 is going to have its challenges, but I really think that it's, along with the Business Excellence Awards, it's most probably time to spend that couple of hours, put an application in and submit to the Business Excellence Awards, because it'll give you that 2 hours or 3 hours in filling out the application form to reflect on where your business is and where you want to take it. And I think that you owe that to your business in terms of setting the scene and where you're going. So it's certainly, I think, a message for everyone. And I think Colin reiterated several times, you really need to plan out what you're doing and where you're going, and that way, if there are hiccups, you're much better placed to cope with it. Could I now call on our Mayor, Councillor Jodie Harrison, just to propose a vote of thanks to our speakers. Thank you.
I feel like this is a sort of bit of an extra theme with the thanks. Yeah, thank you very much to the panel, to Colin and Les. And Ricky and Scott, thank you for sharing some of the secrets that you've had through the growth and challenges that you've experienced in business, and for sharing your economic outlook. So on behalf of everybody here, thank you for the time that you've spent preparing and giving this morning's address.